Stupid fight. That's so dumb. This has got to be one of the funniest builds I've put together in terms of the overall fight, and boy was I cooking with this build, specifically myself. Because literally all you do is you just drop a firestorm on yourself and say, I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me, and then proceed to blow yourself up repeatedly, but you are so tanky, it doesn't even matter. And man, it was a very fun fight to put together, and I hope you enjoyed. If you do like this kind of video and see these fun builds and boss fights and kills, it would be much appreciated if you could like and subscribe. And as always, I will go into a more in-depth explanation of the build now. So to start off, our weapons, mods, and mutators. We use a service pistol, but any handgun that is not a boss weapon will do. You put on Firestorm, you put on Failsafe. Basically, you just start using Firestorm to trap the boss with you, and Failsafe for extra mod damage. And then our melee weapon is not particularly important. We don't actually use it in this fight. I was trying some stuff with Labyrinth Staff's increased mod regen, but it didn't turn into anything incredible. Then for our primary, I use Spore Bloom because of its mod Spore Shot, not its primary fire, which is a little bit weird, but stick with me, you saw it work. And I put on Harmonizer for the increased mod damage, and it generates a little bit more mod power for our stowed weapon. Basically, we just care about the mod damage. For our archetypes and our skills, we're using Archon because we are primarily doing fire damage. Then we use Chaos Gate because it does boost our damage, but we have to be really careful because it does actually make you take increased damage, and because we're just doing things that will hurt ourselves as well as the boss, this is actually like a double-edged sword. You have to be really careful when you use it. And then put it in the primary slot for the extra mod power regen, and then run Summoner just because it's good mod damage. We get the mod crit chance, which is effective on Spore Bloom's mod, and then we use the flyer minions because the flyer minions are the least likely to get stuck in the fire tornado and end up dying. For our amulet and rings, start with the amulet. I equip the golden ribbon just because it increases our mod damage, which is the vast majority of the damage that we're doing. The only thing that doesn't encompass is the flyer minion damage, but that's not a big deal. For our first ring slot, Burden of the Destroyer, just to increase all of our damage dealt, and we're not really firing our firearm, maybe like once or twice just at the beginning of the fight to top off a firestorm. Burden of the Gambler, this is only effective on the middle of the fire tornado and all of Spore Bloom's explosive damage, not the damage over time. But this is just great crit chance increase, crit damage increase. Burden of the Follower for our mod power regen, so we will have our mods whenever we want them as we switch back and forth to just fire them off and keep our damage up. And then finally our Shard Banded Ring, which increases our mod damage by 12%, which is, once again, pretty much all of our damage. For our Relic and our Fragments, I picked the Runed Heart, just because at the beginning of the fight I would pop it and get a little bit of extra mod power regen, which is the most necessary time to have extra mod power regen, as we don't have all of our damage over time going on the boss. So this helps us top off our mods a little bit quicker. And then we have minus 10% mod cost for our first fragment, just because we want to be able to always have our mod up whenever we swap back and forth. Elemental damage, because we're doing a lot of that with our fire damage. And mod damage, because obviously almost all of our damage is mod damage. For another fragment option, you could always consider mod duration, just because it could affect the Spore Shot gas cloud time, as well as the uptime on each individual firestorm. And believe it or not, this build actually has a really important trait dependence, a couple of them actually. To start off, you get Flashcaster for Archon, you get Regrowth for Summoner, but then really importantly, we use Kinship, because this reduces the damage that we do to ourself, which is encompassed under Friendly Fire, by 80%, which is absolutely enormous. Then we use Fortify to increase our already really high armor levels, to just give us a whole bunch of DR, because we need to be able to live through the damage that we're doing to the boss, because all of that damage is also getting done to ourselves. We use Triage to increase our healing modifier. We use Spirit, obviously, because we want mod power regeneration, as we're swapping between Spore Shot and Firestorm. And we have Potency to increase our buff duration for the fight. This is really only important so that we can get Bloodroot active the entire fight. And then we have Shadeskin, which is elemental damage reduction. which will massively increase our fire damage reduction. We can shoot a couple extra fire tornadoes at our feet and survive. This is actually really important, believe it or not. And then Siphoner for life steal, just to once again constantly regen any health that we might be losing and hopefully keep us topped off, which it does. And the strategy for the fight is basically to chug a root water, which is your concoction to regen some health, inject a fairy needle to give you extra mod power regen per second, down a blood root to give you even more health regen per second, and then pop your relic for some mod power regen before walking in and throwing a brightstone grenade to do a little bit of extra damage. This will only be effective on the fly that's coming around. It won't actually also work on Primogenitor, but that's okay. It just helps us kill the fly extra quickly. And then basically you're just mod swapping between Spore Shot and Firestorm, and it's great because Spore Shot, in addition to doing explosion damage right at the beginning, you also get to do a bunch of damage over time for 7 seconds with each cloud that you put down. And because you have Firestorm down, the boss can't move away from where the cloud is, so it's just stuck in the cloud as well as the fire tornadoes that you're shooting. Personally, I think one of the greatest parts about this fight is that you can just see absolutely nothing and you're just in the middle of like 3 fire tornadoes and you're just looking for the damage numbers because you can't even see where the boss is. It's actually just so crazy that that is a viable strategy, but I thought it was hilarious and I would share it. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.